Welcome into another episode number 3 of the Juke Pod. I'm Mitch, joined by none other than Dr. Jen Welter. On this episode, we're gonna kick some glass, and then we're gonna have some free agency madness, our very own March Madness bracket, determining the winner of NFL free agency this year. Jen,
look, you know what? First, I have to start with my kick glass moment. My girl, Sedona Prince, who is clearly making imprints across the madness that is March Madness. And what I have to talk about is it does seem like irony, quite possibly, to me that the woman who is literally changing the game is also a prince. Got to think about that. But anyway, you know, it really does show the power of voice right now, right? Because women's sports have not had the resources that men's have for a very long time. And yet we all know, right? 4% of sports media coverage goes to women. And 0.4% of the dollars go to sports sponsorship, right? For women. Now, when we saw the weight room photo, the little dumbbell rack and the sanitized mats versus the, you know, portable Planet Fitness that the men had, all I could think of is, oh, look, that's 0.4% right there. Because that's about what the women got relative to the men. And cheers to Sedona Prince and some of the other women for kicking glass and literally taking their destiny in their hands with their TikToks to call out bad behavior. Because it's not new, but every time like you can see something like that, it's shocking, right? The weight room, shocking. The food, Tyson would have turned up his nose at, right? Like you had a feast versus a prepackaged, I might choose famine, right? I mean, and even the swag bags, like one was a swag bag, one was a bag that looked like it was the leftovers from people picking up pamphlets in the parking lot. Like
a swagless bag.
Yeah, there was no swag to that bag. Like, and then the arguments, right? The arguments even kind of added insult to injury, right? Well, we don't have space. Really? Space. That's what you're going to say? Or we weren't communicating. How can you possibly say you weren't communicating? This is maddening in March Madness, though obviously, as we said, women in sports, not surprised, but I think it's really powerful that we see the response that people had to those inequities.
I can't get over the food. Like watching those videos, like the diet plan, these are high-end athletes, and what you're serving them each meal is just ridiculous. I can't get over it. And how it looks.
You know how I feel about the dry turkey, right? This even trumps dry turkey, right? Like this was maybe like dry tofurkey. Like it didn't even look like it actually came from anything that was at one time an actual natural substance.
Right. Thank you, TikTok, because I feel like without TikTok, we wouldn't be able to see these vlogs, these videos, the way that they're done so quickly. So everybody can see them all over the place on social media. And that's a way to get a kick glass moment like this out there.
It is. And so thank you, Sedona Prince, for kicking glass, putting the madness in March Madness on blast, because I think what we're going to see is not only the response that people had to this, right? But I think it's putting other leagues and teams on notice that you're not going to want to do that anymore, or you're going to face the viral video backlash of the Prince movement.
And you're going to hear it here on the Juke, of course. We have our very own March Madness today on the show. We are discussing the free agency winners and losers in our very own March Madness bracket. So what I've done is I've numbered every team basically in alphabetical order within their own divisions, 1 to 16 on both conferences, the AFC and the NFC. At the very end, we are going to get a champion. We are going to get an NFC and an AFC. You could call it the free agency Super Bowl. All right. How we're going to determine this is go through the moves and discuss who we felt had the better offseason, the better free agency. So let's waste no more time. Let's get into it. And let's start off with the AFC East. So the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, team that made it to the AFC Championship a year ago, versus the Miami Dolphins, who had an epic offseason last year and were looking to improve more this offseason. Jen, who do you feel just on the surface, right? Who is better? Does either one stand out to you?
You know, this one, it kind of feels like the March Madness mashup right now of the taste of the women's food. I'm not real passionate. I'm not really excited about either right now. So I'm gonna let you start.
All right.
And I'll push back a little bit.
So I heard something today, Jen. I was listening to Kyle Van Noy, now New England Patriot, former Miami Dolphin. He was asked the question, what did you think of Brian Flores, the head coach, compared to the linebacker coach? You know what he said? No comment.
Ooh.
The Miami Dolphins let go of Kyle Van Noy, and the Patriots got a 4th-round pick and Kyle Van Noy for Kyle Van Noy. That is just one example of a bad move by the Miami Dolphins, but they did make some nice moves. I really like the addition of Will Fuller, and I do think that they're trying to surround whoever the quarterback's going to be, Tua or whoever else, with a good situation on offense. But I'm actually leaning towards Buffalo. And the reason I'm leaning towards Buffalo here is because they retained their own. They were a team that went to the AFC Championship. And yes, they haven't improved a ton. They basically swapped Emmanuel Sanders for John Brown, and that was about it. But they retained their own, and they've put themselves in a position to win once again in 2021. So that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think Buffalo's been building, right? And they've been building smart, and they've been putting a lot of pieces in place. I would have needed to see, something splashy, I guess, from the Dolphins. I still don't even know who their quarterback is. You saw
right.
Fitzmagic's gone. Tua was torn up. I mean, nothing about what they're doing there makes me go, ooh, okay, I see where you're going with this. I do like the pickup of Scar from your Houston Texans. He's a good guy. Been with him in Canada. I know that getting out of Houston was a win for him. So I'm going to give that to them. But I'm going to have to go with you on the Bills on this matchup.
Yeah, I'm just a little disappointed with Miami. Just they've had so much money over the last 2 years. They spent a lot of it last year, but they've not been able to get all the guys, improve the offensive line, some of their weaknesses. So Miami, you're out. The next matchup in the AFC East is my New England Patriots. Yes, my bias is going to shine through here on this segment versus the New York Jets. The New York Jets are a team that I actually think improved, but here's the thing. They're going head to head with Dollar Bill. We talked about at length what they've done already. You know it. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Van Noy is back, and a bunch of others, Nelson Aguilar. The Jets, though, I have to shout them out for Carl Lawson, who I think is an awesome edge rusher. Corey Davis getting another wide receiver was nice. Jen, is it simply Bill Belichick, or did the Jets put up a fight?
But I will say that the Jets have improved, but I will also say that's not hard, right?
Right.
I mean, they were bottom of the barrel, and they've definitely probably jumped over the Texans, which again, not hard. They also might have beaten your Dolphins right now that are swimming in shark infested waters. But I gotta give it up to Dollar Bill. I think his money moves. He's making plays, and he's going to make some other teams have some very bad days.
Now let's get to the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm leaning towards the Bengals here because they're actually a team I feel got better, I guess, a little bit in the secondary. I think the big move that I like was improving the offensive line and Mike Hilton, one of the more underrated nickel cornerbacks in the NFL. Jen, what's wrong with the Ravens?
When will the Ravens get somebody to throw to? Okay, I'm about to throw up my bat signal to get Dez Bryant back when he's the best thing that they have to throw to. It's not fair. It's ridiculous. You have quarterback talent. Give him a number one wide receiver and maybe even some, extra hands while you're at it, right? But you've lost some of your defensive capital. We already talked about that sneaky move from Dollar Bill, pulling some of that talent, and that defense is supposed to be, your dig deep down dirty trenches, keep your offense in games, but you lost some of those and you haven't improved for me on offense. So though I hesitate to advocate for the Bengals, unless we're talking, Tony the Tiger here, but the Ravens, I just can't help but ranting, not raving about the Ravens. So for me, they have not done nearly enough, and they've lost some people in my book and maybe some faith in my book too.
The other matchup in the AFC North is the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is as obvious as it gets to me. The Pittsburgh Steelers have only lost players, like a lot of players, especially their identity, which is the defensive side of the football, from previously mentioned Mike Hilton to Bud Dupree and many more, while the Cleveland Browns have made their defense a lot better with John Johnson, Troy Hill, and a bunch of other guys as well. So I think it's obvious, Jen. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this. I think it's the Browns.
I think that the Steelers got stolen. I think that they just got stole to the jaw by the downtown Browns. And the Browns last year, that O-line to me was stand out, right? Baker, the commercial maker, had plenty of time to do everything he wanted behind that wall. And when they get better on defense, they could do some damage. So I have to agree. This one got stolen from the Steelers. Great for you getting Juju back. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The Browns, maybe the best thing that happened to them is they didn't have to do anything to their offense. The offensive line was intact. All they had to focus on was the defense. We move to the AFC South, the Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Houston Texans, I know you're laughing right now because they have literally signed almost every football player from everywhere known to man, just that has picked up a pair of cleats and has picked up a football.
Oh, Houston, what?
Oh,
you want me to come out of retirement? I mean, I know you need help. Yeah, clearly, yeah, you do. I don't actually know anybody who is on your roster from last year, though. I mean, you lost the GM, you lost the head coach. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll let you know because I don't know if that's the best place to go as a new person, but you are signing a lot of people, so congratulations.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. Like the Texans, they're in the dumpster, so they need to find their way out of the dumpster by signing as many players as humanly possible and throwing the dart as many different directions as humanly possible. The Colts, on the other hand, have disappointed me, right? They traded a pick for Carson Wentz, and they have not surrounded Carson Wentz with anything. If not, they've lost things, and they've had money for years. I don't know what Ballard's waiting for. He's not spending any money.
Well, maybe they want to send him back from whence he came, because wasn't Wentz sacked more than any other quarterback last year? And, if you're going to move him, I would hope as a quarterback that I'd be going into a better situation. And yet at this point, with how bad Wentz was, the fact that he got moved at all, he should probably be like, So this one, again, it's kind of like a little bit of a dumpster fire, but I don't think that you can give the win to the Texans because they've just signed tons of people, but we have no idea who the Texans are going to be, right? So do you take the fact that we have a brand new Texans team where we are likely looking at Ty Taylor now because Deshaun Watson is looking down a really bad path, and do you say because they've changed everything that they're going to be better, or do you say the Colts didn't really move much except now we have Wentz?
Yeah, I don't think Wentz is that good, as you said, so I don't know if that's a great addition. I actually like what Nick Caserio has done with the culture and adding all those players. So I do lean towards the Texans here.
All right, well,
Maybe
you know what? We can give it to the Texans, but they're all brand new.
I just want to reward the Texans for actually signing players. The Colts haven't done that. So,
well, we did say who made better moves, right? We didn't say who's necessarily going to win
the better team.
All right, we'll go Texans because, hey, the culture was bad, so we just got rid of everybody.
Right. All right. The next matchup is the Jacksonville Jags and the Tennessee Titans. The Jacksonville Jags, other than the Patriots, have spent basically more money than anyone else, and they have increased their roster. I think the key here is they're doing so because they know Trevor Lawrence is coming into the building. They want to give him a good team from day one. Meanwhile, the Titans are trying to release everyone and have lost Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis. I think this is another pretty obvious one.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see what Urban Meyer does with those Jacksonville Jaguars, right? You got to believe that he stepped into that situation believing he could win fast, right? He needs to set himself apart very fast in the NFL because there are still questions surrounding his transition to the league. Obviously, he can be a little bit of a controversial guy. And now you have, the only quarterback who has better hair game than mine coming into the building, which means you get a big talent for a low dollar, right? So if you can build a team fast, you have a chance to make some big plays. So yeah, we're going to go Jacksonville on this one.
The AFC West, Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. I know you have a take on the Chiefs.
Well, I see that they signed some linemen. I see some O-line moves. And after having watched the O-line get systematically dismantled by the TBD, I am happy that they are investing in this way. Is it enough? I mean, they didn't have, I need a little bit more D-line pass rush stuff too. I haven't seen enough movement there, but I do like what they have done to the offensive line because you did Patrick Mahomes a disservice last year when those tackles were out. Because as we saw, you can have Hardman, you can have Hill, you can have Mahomes, and if you can't get the ball off, you're not going to have a Super Bowl. So
exactly. Yeah, the Denver Broncos, they've really just made their defense much, much stronger with adding to the secondary, which was maybe the biggest weakness of their roster. Adding Ronald Darby and then getting Fuller, who worked with Fangio in Chicago, on a pretty affordable deal. So I think the Broncos are a quarterback away. When you look at their roster and the moves they've made this offseason, I do think they've been better than the Chiefs this offseason. That doesn't mean they're a better team, though.
Yeah, I hesitate to be able to be confident in the Broncos without a quarterback, though, because do we remember what happened when they played the Saints? And they literally had a non-quarterback. They literally didn't have a quarterback. And oh, by the way, they tried to make one of their coaches the quarterback because he was the best option. I know Elway was probably up in the office trying to see if he had one more throwback. I can't give the Broncos a win if they can't give me a quarterback, right? Because that was probably one of the most embarrassing football scenarios that I have ever witnessed. So, though I don't know that the Chiefs have done as much as I would like, I cannot give the Broncos a win without a quarterback.
Wrapping up the first round in the AFC, the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I have to just say it, the Raiders are a disaster. I have no idea what they're doing. They have gotten rid of their entire offensive line, which was the identity of their team.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chargers have actually improved their offensive line, protecting Justin Herbert with the best center in football, Corey Linsley. What else do I have to say?
Wasn't it the Raiders last year who had like their O-line get COVID? Wasn't that them? Didn't they learn a lesson then that you kind of need an O-line? I mean, I don't know about you, but if anybody watched the Super Bowl, let's go back to that. The thing we learned is everything else is a lot of sizzle. And yet if you don't have that substance in the trenches, you're going to have a hard time. So all I have to say is they're betting. I'm not betting on the Raiders. We'll put it that way. So Vegas odds say Chargers.
Now we're going to move over to NFC and take a look first at everybody's favorite NFC division. That is the NFC East. Jen, they have another name?
The NFC least, because it was the least competitive division last year. And if you remember, I have my Cam Newton kickball theory, which if you play with Cam Newton, he is the most competitive dude on the face of the earth. And if you play in his kickball tournament, when he beats your team, they take your two best players. And the only way the NFC least would have been competitive last year is if they followed Cam Newton's kickball. So let's see if they did any better in free agency.
Right. Let's start off with the first matchup. Number 1, Dallas Cowboys taking on the number 16 New York Giants. I'm feeling an upset here. The New York Giants have made way better moves. I mean, outside of the Cowboys re-signing Dak, which was awesome for them. That's great. And signing Keanu Neal at safety. The Giants have brought in Kenny Golladay, one of the premier receivers on the market, Adoree Jackson, one of the premier corners, and just got tight end Kyle Rudolph as well. So I like what the Giants have done surrounding some talent around Daniel Jones.
Well, you better surround Daniel Jones with talent because Daniel Jones is not your get it done guy in and of himself. They finally paid Dak, which, as you know, I think that they should have paid him before they paid Zeke. But here is what I'm seeing, right? With all of those Dallas additions, you're seeing that they're finally trying to put a D in Dallas because last year it was the Alice Cowboys for way too long. It was so painful to watch. Before Dak got injured, the games that they lost were not because of the offense. It was because of the lack of D in Dallas. And so, though I see them making some moves, and we do know that they have a new defensive coordinator, I got to go with the Golladay. I'll give it to the Giants. Although I do think Dallas is better because Dak to me is so much more significant than Daniel Jones. But if we're just talking straight moves, I'll give it to the Giants.
So no, Danny Dimes moves forward, but you're not a fan of Danny Dimes. That's interesting. I'm going to take note of that, actually.
I'm not. I don't even, he's forgettable to me.
Okay, I'm putting it. Jen's not a fan of Daniel Jones. All right, next matchup. Philadelphia Eagles.
I actually called them the Lil Giants last year. That maybe if you put the Alka-Seltzer in their mouth, they might scare somebody, but he is not putting fear in the heart of any defense.
The Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington football team. Washington, I think, had an underrated offseason. Ryan Fitzpatrick, believe it or not, the Magic Man himself is an upgrade, in my personal opinion, over the quarterbacks they had last year. And they also got my favorite cornerback on the market, William Jackson. What do you think of Washington taking on the Eagles, who really have stayed pretty quiet?
I still don't know what the Eagles are doing, right? They make me scratch my head. Um, you know, I don't actually understand them at all right now. I do like the Washington football team. I think Fitzmagic has many tricks in his beard, right? They're trying to take his lucky charms, and he might charm us just a little bit this year. And their defense was already dominating. So because I don't understand the Eagles at all, and I think Magic Man is gonna has a lot to prove this year. I'm gonna go with the Washington football team.
The NFC North, the Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions. Now, I think this is just a disaster. I think you could argue that either of these teams might be the worst team this year. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I just think this is realistic. The Lions lost their franchise in Matthew Stafford, and they're trying to rebuild their team. Obvious rebuilding mode. While the Chicago Bears are not in rebuilding mode, but they might want to think about it after signing Andy Dalton. Jen.
I mean, you know, Dalton. This was the plan. We heard Russell Wilson talk and got Andy Dalton. I mean, look, when Dallas had Dalton as their backup, I thought it was pretty genius, right? Because you gave yourself a good backup situation in one that you didn't ever see Dak going down. So I thought having Andy Dalton as a backup was a strong play. Never would I have thought that what happened in Dallas would put him on franchise quarterback track. But then again, the Bears picked Trubinsky over Mahomes. So quarterback selection cred in my book is precisely negative 1 million at this point. It's painful.
This one might be the toughest matchup of the round. I think at least the Lions know they suck. So I'm going to give the Lions the win here. How do you feel about that?
Go for it. Go for the Lions.
Okay, yes, Lions, baby. All right, the next one is the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings got your guy, Patrick Peterson. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. The Green Bay Packers, they lost Corey Linsley to the Chargers, as we discussed, but they did retain Aaron Jones. They look to be keeping the band together this year. That's at least what their game plan has been, but they're still not trying to surround Aaron Rodgers with any more wide receivers, Jen. The Vikings, on the other hand, have gotten that defense a little bit better with Peterson and Dalvin Tomlinson. Who do you think has the edge here?
For me, the Vikings are clearly showing that they believe they have, something cooking on the offense, and they're fortifying the defense. You can't get much better than Patrick Peterson. I know your favorite went to the Washington football team, but having been on the field with Patrick Peterson, you're not only getting a baller, but you're also getting a locker room leader and somebody who sets the standard of what work looks like. You also re-signed Stephen Weatherly over from the Panthers. So they got him back. It looks like what they think they need is a little bit more D in Minnesota. I am sick for Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand why you won't just let him be the quarterback that he's capable of being by giving him some serious weaponry. It makes me like, it just doesn't even make sense to me. You have one of the all-time greats. You've got him right now, and yet you're not letting him be as great as he can. Now, could they do it through the draft? Hopefully that's what they're planning on. But I believe that the Green Bay Packers have never given Aaron Rodgers like a true first-round number one wide receiver. Isn't that correct?
In the draft, they have never selected a wide receiver in the first round. That is correct.
So that doesn't give us faith that they're going to change that this season, which makes it yet another.
Here's the thing, Jen. They sucked in the draft last year. Like, I have no other way to say it. They maybe go to the Super Bowl if they don't decide to spend their picks on the future or whatever they decided to do, picking the first round Jordan Love, who didn't play, right? He's a quarterback. Okay, that's nice to have, but like, you didn't help your team right now when you're trying to win right now. Second round, AJ Dillon's the third string running back on that team last year. I believe in the third round, they picked, a fullback or something. I barely played. So like this year, okay, if they're not doing anything in free agency, what gives me the faith that they're going to do it in the draft? Based on last year, I have zero faith. So like you said, the Vikings at least trying to increase and get that defense better. I love what you said about Patrick Peterson, because the Vikings do in fact have a very young secondary. So he can kind of coach them up, right? Be that mentor. So I think we're leaning towards the Vikings.
Going Vikings.
The NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons versus the Carolina Panthers. Atlanta is going through a whole new regime change, new coach, new everything, but they're going to have Matt Ryan, they're going to have Julio, and really they haven't done a lot to change overall the roster, what it looks like. Carolina may not have gotten their quarterback, but they have really strengthened some of their defense. Hassan Reddick comes over from Arizona. I think they've gotten better as well at linebacker, and Denzel Perryman from the Chargers. I like what the Panthers have done. I think they've done a solid job of, since coming in last year with their new coaching staff, new regime themselves, they've built this team from the ground up. And I think they're continuing to do that this offseason.
Yeah, that combination of Perryman and Reddick is going to be sick. Like, I know Perryman. Actually, believe it or not, he came out and coached the Snoop Special Stars camp with me. The guy is electric. He is magnetic. He is, when you watch him play, he is a playmaker, but he also has that heart, hustle, and like vibe that, kind of like everybody who's around him is gonna like be a little bit more hype. And obviously Reddick is also fire. So I think that you're gonna see a lot of big upticks on defense. I like those moves a lot. Those were two of the guys I was really looking to see where they would go in free agency. And the fact that they both went the same way, I think you're going to have a devastating defense building there in Carolina. And you better, because what are they doing at quarterback?
Yeah, exactly. We don't know yet. Maybe they have a plan up their sleeve for the draft. You never know.
They have a plan.
I like what you said.
Okay, all right. But I think you're right, though. The Falcons really haven't done much. Looking at this, I see a lot more L's taken than I do additions. So I think we have to go Carolina winning this free agency right now.
So they add a fire duo to Brian Burns. So they're burning more opponents. New Orleans Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one, I think, pretty obvious. The Saints were in absolute cap disaster, and the Tampa Bay Bucs have managed to keep everybody. And earlier today, re-signing Ndamukong Suh. Do I need to say anything?
Nope. What the buck are you thinking, Saints? Because it looks like you just got burned again, right? Like, the Bucs are building, and the fact that they're able to like bring the band back together, that I think I hear dynasty-esh, right? Like there's like a sword for the pirate ship. They just were like, right? Like I mean, they're actually like just treasure chesting up troves of talent in Tampa. And the fact that they were able to keep that coaching staff together too, right? Like that's one of the things that it's not technically free agency, but a lot of the times you see after a team goes to the Super Bowl, some very significant coaching departures, going to, lead other teams, getting head coach shots. And because this was a newer staff, they were able to keep that talent. You're not going to have that happen again next year with Todd Bowles. He'll be back at a head man job again. So you better win now.
The NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals versus the Los Angeles Rams. This one is tough, I think, as is the NFC West in real life, real football. It's a tough division. The Cardinals have made some moves to obviously add some familiar names like AJ Green, Rodney Hudson, and JJ Watt. Those are big names. A lot of people know them. But the Los Angeles Rams got better at the most important position with Matthew Stafford, one of my favorite players in the NFL. Jen, which way do you lean here?
Right now I'm looking at defense, right? And I like JJ Watt. I also like him paired up with Marcus Golden, because you also have, unless they did something crazy, you also have Chandler Jones, right?
Yeah,
so you're going to be devastating up front. Right. Those are some dogs right there. Right. I had Marcus Golden. He was my rookie pick outside of my room, because you can't pick somebody in your room. It's just too close. Love that guy. He's about as scrappy as you get. So I like the moves that they're making on defense, but I kind of scratched my head a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, yeah, you have AJ Green as an addition, and, you got Hop back. Yeah, I just don't
offensive line.
I don't know if it's enough. Yeah, the O-line, we got a little fortification. I mean, we made some moves there. So yeah, I mean, you could be. But then when we look at the Rams, I know you love Matthew Stafford.
I love him.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't not love him. And here's my thing with him. I think he's just, he's maybe been a shining gem in a bit of a trash bin, right? So I can't judge him well enough, because okay. The team was just so like.
He goes to a great coach and a great team in his best situation.
Right. No,
and they also just added D-Jax.
Yeah.
Bombs away.
Yeah, no, I think their offense got an upgrade. And I say that like, I don't love him because I think he's been in a bad situation, right? Okay. I've never really gotten to see him be what he could be, but it makes it harder for me to judge him. Defense, we know that they were good last year, but they do have some losses on the defensive side of the ball. That concerns me a little bit. I'm going with the Cardinals won this one in free agency.
I don't hate that. We'll go with the Cardinals.
I think both of them did pretty well. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals just because I know those defensive guys personally.
And the final matchup of the first round is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks have struggled to increase the talent pool around Russell Wilson. It appears Russell Wilson will remain a Seahawk, but will he really love what he sees? Gabe Jackson, I guess, will help protect him. They added Kerry Hyder to the edge pass rush. Yeah, I know you wanted that. He's an under the radar name, but he is a pass rusher nonetheless. The 49ers, here's the thing with them. They really just brought back their own. And this is a big W for them, because last year they would have been an elite team if they were not the most hurt, injured team in pro football.
Yep. So
Jen, which way do you swing here?
I don't think Seattle's done enough. I think that there are still rumors. I've heard that there are still rumors that Russ might be cooking his way out of town.
Okay.
Look, Carolina needs a quarterback. If I'm them, I'm going, we've got something going. I don't think you've done enough on this team. You gave me a couple under the radar defense guys that could be rushers. Now we have we got a DE, a DT, and a nose, which means that you were terrible last year getting pressure, right? Your safety led the team in sacks. This is, as a D-line person, you took a stake to my heart, right? And Russ still doesn't have anybody. No. San Francisco, be gone, Seattle. You need to do something. Sierra's going to write a song about it.
We're moving on to the Elite Eight, the second round, and we're going to go way back to the AFC East. The final two teams in the AFC East is the Buffalo Bills and the New England Dollar Bill Patriots. Jen, are the Bills, do they stand a chance versus Belichick?
Look, overall, I think the Dollar Bills and Dollar Bill are going to have some great matchups this season.
I agree.
But who won free agency? The money man, Bill, who has been saving that money under his mattress for 20 years now, spent it all. He was in the club making it rain, and he's not having it. So he won free agency.
Now we have the Battle of Ohio in the AFC North, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. I know I gave the Bengals the edge last round, but I somewhat expect them to do more to protect Joe Burrow, and I don't think they've done enough yet. While I do feel the Browns are just doing all they can to increase their defensive strength. Again, John Johnson, Troy Hill, they just brought in a meeting for Jadeveon Clowney potentially going on that defensive line. Jen, do you also side with the Browns, or do you like what the Bengals have done more?
I fear the Bengals. They're more like a bracelet than a tiger at this point, right? Maybe we've got some jingle jangle Bengals, but I'm going with the Browns. I think the Browns beat them in a head-to-head matchup, and I think they're beating them in free agency as well.
The Texans and the Jags. Urban Meyer, new regime, signing a bunch of guys that he feels will fit the culture and fit the roster and the schemes well. On the other hand, the Texans, signed everybody else. So which way you lean there?
The signings in Houston are more like, Houston, we have a problem. We have had a culture problem. We have had a new head coach, a new GM. We don't know what's going on with our quarterback. And please help us. Somebody just come play football, right? It might be the replacements. I feel like we're almost going back. Give me Keanu Reeves at this point, right? No, we have Tyrod Taylor, and I do have faith in Ty Taylor. But Jacksonville's making money moves. Houston's making desperation plays. Big difference going with the Jaguars, especially knowing they have the only quarterback whose hair looks better the worse the game goes.
All right, the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West. The Broncos, like I said, loading up on Vic Fangio's side of the football with that secondary. Bringing back Shelby Harris, I think, was an underrated ad. And I think they have everything except for a quarterback. Meanwhile, the Chargers have a young quarterback that a lot of people have faith in. Maybe they have more holes, but they've made, Corey Linsley. They did lose Hunter Henry. They've brought in a Matt Filer from the Pittsburgh Steelers who could play guard or tackle. So they're starting to try to protect Justin Herbert, but they have lost some pieces on defense. I could see this one going either way. I think the Broncos personally have done a better job of fulfilling their weaknesses, but how do you feel?
I don't know. I thought I killed the Broncos last round because I think you need a quarterback. I remember what happened in that playoff game. So if I didn't weakest link them last time, they're out this time.
Okay, so you say because they didn't find their quarterback in free agency, they're eliminated.
I have them right now. I have none.
Okay.
I mean, I think that there was you have to work really hard to try and tap a coach to play a game, and then have a guy who's not even a quarterback or even on your active roster come in and throw more passes to the other team than to your own. No, you needed to make big money moves. unless you think that the defense is going to sack, fumble your way to a win. Like that's all I see right now. So no, I can't with the Broncos. They're more like My Little Pony at this point.
I'll give you the Chargers. I will say this: you need a team around a quarterback to win, and I do feel they just need that quarterback. As hard as it is to find, maybe it comes in the draft. We'll see. Now let's move to the NFC. We have the New York G-Men and the Washington football team, who both dismantled their last matchups of the Cowboys and the Eagles. You said you're not a fan of Danny Dimes. You love Fitz Magic a little bit more. Which moves do you think help the quarterback this offseason, help their team and get better for this year?
Convince me that the little giants aren't just about Alka-Seltzer. Convince me that there should be any fear in them, right? I still don't even think of Daniel Jones other than looking like Eli's lost little brother, right? Like I don't get it. So please convince me otherwise.
It's scary that he does look a lot like Eli, man. At least the facial expressions, mannerisms, those things are very much there. But I do think Danny Dimes can throw some dimes now because he has a legitimate alpha number one wide receiver, and his name is Kenny Golladay. They also, I know this isn't a free agency addition, but that Saquon Barkley guy, when he plays, he's pretty special, right? And defensively, I think they were already good last year. I like maybe this is, again, Patriot bias coming through, but I like what Joe Judge is doing. I like what they're doing on defense. A lot of Patriot, stacking up in the secondary with Adoree Jackson there and Logan Ryan bringing him in for the meeting. I like all that stuff. So maybe I'm liking the Giants. Maybe that's one of my outside the box teams this year. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I do like what the Giants have done.
I hear you. I know right now today, if you have to put money moves on Daniel Jones led Little Giants versus Fitzmagic and his Lucky Charms on the team with no name, yeah. I'm going WTF. It's Fitzmagic.
Okay. So
and yeah, you like that WTF, right? Yeah. We're just going to flip up their acronym a little bit and have some fun with it. But I haven't seen anything that makes me have faith in the Giants.
Okay, not enough from the Giants yet for Jen. So we're moving to the NFC North, the final matchup. We have the absolutely embarrassing Lions, although I have to give them credit for trying to make some moves, post Matthew Stafford to put them in a position to maybe get their quarterback in the future, because I don't believe it's going to be Jared Goff. They take on the Minnesota Vikings, Patrick Peterson, your man, your boy, and they did what you wanted, which is to increase the defense. So I do kind of feel like it's the Vikings.
Yeah, there's no lying about this one. Stop lying. The Lions are more like the kitty cats. Minnesota's winning this one for me.
All right, we have the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You really praised the Panthers for what they did. Is that enough, what they did, to actually overcome what Tampa Bay was able to do, keeping the band together?
This one's hard. Because I like what Carolina's done a lot, especially in terms of their linebackers. But we know how I already feel about the linebackers in Tampa Bay. That's that TBD, y'all. I got to go with Tampa Bay keeping the band back together. Seals it. Now, if Panthers end up with like Russ Wilson or somebody impressive at quarterback, we might have to revisit that conversation, but they still don't have a quarterback answer. And if that knocked another team out, meaning your Broncos, then I have to go with the fact that they got TB12 and got him to take less money and were able to re-sign everybody else. Everybody wants to play there. So it's a hot team. That's a hot move. Just put more treasure in the Pirates' booty right there.
The NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals, as we mentioned, very tight one with the Los Angeles Rams last round, but they were able to squeak it out with some of the moves they made in the front seven. JJ Watt, The 49ers, they did do something to help protect themselves from JJ Watt. That was bringing Alex Mack back into Kyle Shanahan's offense, which I think is maybe an under the radar move. Which team do you see as the better offseason, the Niners or the Cardinals?
This one might be a little bit hard for me.
It is hard. It's tough.
Right? If we looked at the one-on-one matchup right now today, which team do you think wins?
I think the Niners win. I think, I'm not as big of a fan as Jimmy as I am Kyler is a better quarterback. But when you look at the rosters, I think the Niners better offensive skill position wise and offensive line wise. And I think they're better on defense. It wasn't too long ago since they were the best defense in the league 2 years ago, and they have a lot of those pieces back. And I think they've been able to re-sign them. So I actually would go with the Niners because when I look at them right now, I don't see a lot of holes on their roster that I don't think could be fulfilled through the draft, which I don't really love fulfilling needs through the draft, but
I do think that the Niners have a really complete roster. I think they're gonna, they're that trench football, right? You've got tight end,
Right.
You've got fullback, like they're gonna be grinders, which means you have to keep everybody healthy. The Cardinals have more of your high flying, big playmaking ability on offense and defense. So I think if you like sizzle, if you like high flying, you're going to go Cardinals. If you want that trench, that trench warfare, that run pass balance, you go Niners. But I'm a Cardinals person.
Okay, bias.
Look, I'm going to go with bias. Hey, if it's that close a matchup, you know who I'm going to pull for? I'm going to pull for those dogs on that D line. Because let me tell you, Jimmy G does not want to see JJ Watt. He does not want to see Chan Man Jones. And he sure doesn't want any of that dog that is Marcus Golden. So I think Jimmy G face plants and the Cardinals come away with it. Jimmy G's like, no more, no.
Back to the AFC. We're moving on to the final four on each side. We have Jimmy G's former team, the New England Patriots with Dollar Bill, taking on the Cleveland Browns. Now, I have been saying I love the Browns, what they've been doing. There is no bigger fan of what their general manager and what their front office has been able to do, not just this season, but over the past 3 years to rebuild the Cleveland Browns. Just think about that. But again, it's the New England Patriots. It's Bill Belichick. He has signed so many impact players at positions of need, Jen. This Cleveland, again, does this team stand a chance? Oh,
that's what I'm going with right now. Show me the money. Bill Belichick is mad and he is spending like a madman. He also got all his COVID people back, right? That's a big play that we haven't talked about yet. I just think that in terms of winning free agency, their free agency, I will give a whole lot of credit to what the Cleveland Browns are building. Although I would like Baker to make a few less commercials and a few more plays. But when it comes to winning free agency, I can't get past what Dollar Bill is doing.
Right. Baker Mayfield may see aliens, but I'm not so sure Bill Belichick isn't an alien himself.
Look, so Bill Belichick's like this. Bill Belichick has like
is that supposed to...
Look, he got dollar bills here and he's got $1 million. Oh, that's not that much money. $1 billion.
The Chargers and the Jags are the other matchup in the AFC to determine who's going to take on Bill Belichick in the final round of the AFC. And like I said, if there's one team that actually stands next to the Patriots with all the money moves, as you put it, that they've made, it's Jacksonville. And I just, again, like maybe there's not a lot of big names, Marvin Jones, Shaq Griffin. They're not headliners, but they're a lot better now with Trevor Lawrence coming in, Jen.
Can I tell you?
Too much for the Chargers?
Look, when it comes to the Chargers versus Jacksonville, the Chargers are getting jacked. Jacksonville just flexed on them.
Okay. It's easy then.
And the hair looks good too. They like this. They're like, uh-huh. That's it.
So we got Jacksonville and New England. Jacksonville and New England in the final matchup of the AFC. Let's just wrap up the AFC right now.
Let's do it.
Let's just get that done. So the money moves of Jacksonville or the Patriots.
What do you think?
Again, I'll strip the bias away here. But when I look at it, it's hard, but I can do it. Okay. Let's just compare. So I do feel like Jacksonville, like I said, they got marginally better on the defensive line. They added a few players, Malcolm Brown, Tyson Alualu, these type of guys that are solid starters. And then you look at Shaq Griffin, who's a solid starter, but might have been slightly overpaid. Offensively, Marvin Jones is a number 2 receiver, but not a number 1. And you just look at it, I don't think they've really added anything to their offensive line to help protect Trevor Lawrence. On the other hand, with the Patriots, they basically have filled every need on their roster in free agency to the point to where they don't even have a true need in the draft. They can pick whoever they want. And that to me is a true winner of free agency.
It's dollar bill, y'all. He's killing it. He's killing it. And he's going to get himself some backups. And, Bill Belichick is known for really finding impact players later in the draft. So him, and this is, by the way, this is the earliest first round draft pick that the Patriots have had in who knows how long, right?
I do 2008.
Okay. See, I was going to say
it's a long time ago.
It's a long time. So Bill Belichick has made big moves. They're going to want to be contenders right now. And they, I'm proud of Jacksonville. I'm a Florida resident, but you can't beat Bill on what he's done.
All right. So you got rid of Danny Dimes last round. You said Fitzmagic was the way to go. Fitzmagic is taking on the Vikings in this Final Four matchup in the NFC. This one's interesting. We didn't mention one name that Washington didn't pick up, and this is one that I really like. He's a dynamic player, Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is a playmaker with the ball in his hands as a wide receiver, even as a running back. That might be the difference here over what the Vikings have done, or do you disagree?
No, I think you're right on that. I think Washington football team has been a little bit more multiple and they've improved, right? And so I'm going to give it to him.
Okay, simple as that. Then we have your Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus your Arizona Cardinals.
Oof, that's a tough one. I'd love to say that I think the Cardinals win the head-to-head on this one. But I think just what the Buccaneers have done, bringing all of that back, they have that defense and the ability to be high-flying and win in the trenches. It's hard to bring the band back together, and they did it. So let's go Bucs.
I can't go without saying right now, in this final matchup in the NFC, we have Washington and Tampa, but you know who's on the other side. It's Bill Belichick. Okay, are you really about to put Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick in the free agency Super Bowl?
Yes.
Of course. That's how it all ends up. And now they're going to say it was because of me, because I'm a biased Patriots Bucs fan. But Jen called it. So let's determine this. Our champion of the Super Bowl of free agency, Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick. Which team had a bigger impact this offseason?
Well, I think the Bucs stayed good
Mm-hmm.
but the Patriots got good.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're just talking winning free agency, I might have to give it to the Patriots. Although it's really hard to bring the band back together. And I mean, that's super impressive. And that team is going to be really tough. No one expected this free agency from Bill Belichick. Like, I guarantee you, there were people who came out of that first day and they were like, oh God, oh, he's back and he's badder than ever, right? Like, I literally picture like that sweatshirt that Bill Belichick loves to wear, like the sleeves even got shorter. He was like, yeah.
Cut off.
Right? Like usually the cutoffs are here.
Muscles.
Yeah, but he was full muscle on those moves. So, you know, I think what we're seeing is that things just got a whole lot more interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of the discussion of Patriots getting better, as you said, the Bucs remaining better or still being better. And it's a matter of what's more difficult, to bring back everybody after winning a Super Bowl with the selfishness that can be, that contract of not, having the team back that you wanted. And that's definitely challenging. But what's more challenging is to absolutely pick apart your needs. Look at the list, go down each one and be like, I got this guy for that position. I got that guy for that position. I got that guy. He's going to fit in there. Then we get our COVID guys back in there, and we have the highest draft pick that we've had in a long time, as you said. So yeah, I just think what Bill Belichick has done is masterful. So round one of Belichick and Brady goes to Bill Belichick, and the Patriots are the champions of the free agency Super Bowl.
Right. And you saw, and this goes to, we always hear the, was it Brady or was it Belichick argument, which I don't think is fair because, their greatness was so intertwined. But part of what you saw is Brady and the Bucs being able to do they did this year because of how the Patriots have done it in the past.
That's true.
Restructuring contracts, taking less money, spreading it around more to keep that dynasty mentality intact. And so, I think it's where you have student giving a nod to the teacher. And it's going to be a really, really, really interesting, draft and then season.
Yeah, I think with the Brady Belichick discussion, it was almost the two aspects of what made New England appealing before for a free agent, to play with Tom Brady and the chance that you're going to win, or especially for defensive guys, being coached by Belichick and knowing he'll put you in the best situation to succeed. So we saw both of those things in the opposite conferences, and I think that's why they met in that championship. But the Patriots ultimately, and that is our free agency March Madness bracket. So let us know on social who you thought was the number one team in free agency. Let us know at the Juke Pod on Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. You can see us. You can actually see our expressions and see all the entertaining money just being thrown around Jen's house right now. So if you want to check out the visuals,
it's my Bill Belichick impression.
The audio, check
my
it out.
My cutoff sleeves and dollar bills.
Yeah. So that is the episode. That is episode 3, and that is the free agency madness. Jen, anything else to say?
I think we saw a lot of March Madness that we touched on in the kick glass with the Belichickian spending towards the men's weight room and the hold up, wait a minute, what was that for the women? So, money talks. And what we saw, hopefully, for the women's game is that the talking will get the money where the sports need to be for a little bit more equity. And yet we have seen huge disparities in spending in this free agency, but we see that money moves need to be made if you're going to win. So let's invest in women and let's see if those money moves paid off for the Patriots and they can make a run at the Buccaneers and TB3. That is Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, and Todd Bowles D.
There it is. Episode number 3. Make sure you tune in next week for episode 4. From Jen and Mitch, peace.